Hello viewers, welcome. You're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we're broadcasting from our studios here on Karaba Avenue. My name is Aliou Sise, and in this program we have officials from the National Legal Aid, and of course the head of the Center for Legal Support is also here with us in the studio. And today we are looking at the protection mechanism according to children in conflict with the law. I mean, we've seen often than not, we've seen children being found, of course, violating the laws of this country. And then today we'll be looking at what mechanisms are in place to protect, I mean, these children when they, violate the law. And with me in the studio, I have Ahmed Kemo Sise on my left, who is the legal officer and head of NALA, that is National Legal Aid. Mr. Sise, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And on my left, I have Sirif Kumba Job, who is the head of Center for Legal Support. Mr. Job, welcome to the program.
Good to be here.
And next to Mr. Job, I have Umar Suso, legal officer, of course, with the National Legal Aid. Mr. Suso, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. I will start with Mr. Caesar, who is the, of course, a legal officer and head of the National Legal Aid. I mean, who is considered as a minor in the Gambia's juvenile system?
Thank you for asking this important question. But before I answer the question, may I just make one clarification, and that is the full name of the agency that is behind this program is National Agency for Legal Aid. It's an act of, it's an institution which is created by the Act of Parliament on the Legal Aid Act. So the full name is National Agency for Legal Aid. Insofar as your question is concerned, a child is anybody who is less than 18 years old. So a child of 17 and 11 months old is still a child. A person who is 17 years old and 11 months is still a child. That is according to the universal definition, and also the definition according to the most important law on children in this country, which is the Children's Act 2005.
And like you said, I mean, you've given us who a minor is, but what is the age for criminal liability?
Before the advent of 2005 Children's Act, the position wasn't very clear. You can find the definition or the various means to make somebody responsible criminally under the section 12 of the Criminal Code. But obviously, with the coming into force of Children's Act 2005, the Act specifically says that anybody from the age of 12 above is responsible criminally for their own conduct. Below that, they are not.
Interesting. Let me now bring in Suso here, who is also a legal officer from the National Agency for Legal Aid. I mean, when you look at the juvenile justice system, what are the aims of this juvenile justice system in the Gambia?
Thank you, Mr. Sise, for that question. So, like any criminal justice system, there are aims and objectives that the system seeks to achieve, and the aims and objectives of the juvenile justice system is to ensure that children that are in conflict with the law are rehabilitated, they are reformed so that they can reintegrate within the society. So the idea behind the juvenile justice system is not to punish children that are in conflict with the law. So this is why under our laws, detention is even the last resort that the court can order in respect of a child that is in conflict with the law. So in essence, the aims and objective of the juvenile justice system is to rehabilitate and reintegrate children that are in conflict with the law, so that after the process, they can be productive citizens. So even in the event the alleged child offender or the children in conflict with the law is detained, you have detention centers that are equipped Maybe in the Gambia we don't have that, but in other jurisdictions you will have detention centers that are equipped with modern facilities, so that children that are detained there can acquire the necessary skill set, and after their incarceration they become productive citizens of the society.
Let me bring in Mr. Job here, head of the Center for Legal Support. You have heard from Suso talking about the aims of the juvenile justice system in terms of trying to protect children when they're in conflict with the law. Why should they be treated differently as far as the criminal justice is concerned?
Thank you. That is a very interesting question. I think we should not lose sight of the status of children in our society. Often than not, we hear that the children of today are the futures of tomorrow. So as a society or as a national policy, it's behooves of the government, of the society, of us, to put up mechanism that would ensure that children are brought in an environment where their potentials would be harnessed, where even if they come into conflict with the law, we understand the status or their mental ability to be able to cope with the situation, and we do not put up a system that will rule in their future, because tomorrow, if we are not able to put a proper mechanism for these children, and for one reason or the other a child gets into conflict with the law and is treated like an adult, or is treated like a person who understands what he has done or not, and the full force of the law is applied on the child, that psychologically it may affect the child. And also why they need to be protected is the fact that the person committed an offense at a time that he or she may not understand the act fully of what he has done, because usually you are less than 18 years old. You have almost how many years to go as an adult. So in order to ensure that your future is not taken from you, this is why the law has put in mechanism that you are protected and safeguard from all the rigorous process that comes with the adversarial system of justice, to ensure that the child is not traumatized with the system, to ensure that the child is able to reflect on what he has done and learn from the process. So the overall objective is to ensure that the life and the interest of the child is protected. Why do we need them? Because that child could be anything tomorrow, and if we put the child into a system that he is not able to realize those potential, even as a country we may stand to lose, because someone can commit offense today and he could be the best person or the better person tomorrow, and if we deny him that opportunity or those abilities, then as a society we fail in our future. And this is why the criminal justice system make it a very relaxed system for the children to be protected and to be treated differently, because they are not conscious of what they are doing. Although even in other people can even argue, even at the age of 12, a child should not be held criminally responsible, because at the age of 12, if you looked at our society, our children, how many of them are actually conscious what they are doing? So as a result of that, being unconscious of perhaps the act or omission that they might have done, this is why it is important that we do not punish them, and instead we protect them for them to be able to be a productive, or to be able to be a productive citizen tomorrow.
I mean, talking about the issue of the protection, let me bring in Ahmed here, who is the head of the National Agency for Legal Aid. I mean, what are the protective mechanisms according to children? I mean the minors.
Yes, and thank you for that question. Before I come to answer the question directly, maybe I could, if I may,
okay,
add a few things to what my colleagues have just said. We use the term children in conflict with the law loosely. It doesn't necessarily have to be children in conflict with the law. It has to be. We have to see the whole picture. At a go holistically. In other words, even if an adult is going through the criminal justice system, but if the decision of the court is to impact negatively on a child, then that has to be considered. So the best interest of the child has to be considered. Now, the best interest of child is often used as well, but you'll have to understand it in the context, and that is the most widely ratified international legal instrument called the Convention on the Right of the Child, 1989, the UN Convention, puts the best interest of the child at the heart of the whole convention itself, and it can be found at Article 3 of the convention. And it says that every decision maker, be it in private, but more particularly in public sector, whenever they are making decisions, including the courts, the social welfare, the police, the army, every aspect of life, every aspect of the social fabric, anybody who is making decisions must make the best interest of the child a primary consideration. So that means a lot. But now, coming to your question, if you can just kindly remind me.
Yes, I mean, I was asking about what are the protective mechanisms accorded to children.
There are many. There are many. It depends on the context. But if we restrict ourselves to the criminal process, there are a number of them, and you may want to find these, those who are familiar with the law, Section 204 all the way down in the Children's Act. First of all, if a decision maker or the police or investigators were to be involved with a child because the child is alleged to have committed an offense, the approach should be different from that of the adults, and that's why the Children's Act requires specialist units to be placed in all police stations, so that when a child is reported to the police as of for having committed or suspected of committing an offense, there should be ways to arrest that child, if at all arrest has to happen, but it should not be arrest in the first place. What usually should be done is the child should be invited with an adult, usually a parent or the person looking after that child, or carer they call it. They should come, and when they come, they should not be treated or processed or dealt with in the normal process the way that the adults are. They should be made to feel comfortable and not be intimidated, and they should be child-friendly whenever they are in the circumstances that this child is being questioned about the allegation, for example. So that's the starting point for the, and even where there's a prima facie an offense that has been committed by this child, the investigation should be child-friendly as well. You shouldn't be having a child for more than 1 hour, or I think in certain situations there are good practices. You don't spend more than half an hour with a child being interrogated. However serious the offense is, there should be break. And when the child is being investigated or being interrogated or interviewed, an adult must be there, social welfare should be there, a lawyer should be there. All of these people have a role to play. So maybe looking at his best interest. Is he tired? Is he hungry? Is he distressed? Is he psychologically being affected? And the lawyer would be there to see that right questions within the law are being put. Should the child answer? Should he not answer? If he needs time to consult with the child, the investigator should stop. The child can have a one-to-one, face-to-face conversation with the lawyer to advise. And it goes on like that. So even if the investigation stage is completed and then we move to prosecution, for example, the lawyer that is even representing the child should be trained. That is the law. The lawyer should be trained and should understand the basic principles of child psychology, child behavior, and should treat the child accordingly, take full instruction, but also put in the context hard questions. in relation to the offense, in order for the lawyer to be in a position to have a full and more informed instructions and to act on that instruction. So it might be a situation where the child does not even have to speak. So one of the ways that a lawyer can deal with the child's case in the criminal context is that to take so much sufficient instruction that the child does not have to take a stand. And the lawyer's instruction should be able to inform the decision makers as to how to deal with this child.
It's very interesting. Let me bring in Suso here. In the event a minor committed a crime,
yes,
and like he said, I mean, he or she is not willing to open up and talk, what happened? Do you still follow the, like you said, the best interest of this minor?
Yes, like rightly mentioned by Mr. Sisi, the best interest of the child should be the guiding principle in whatever decision is made in respect of a child throughout the juvenile justice process. And he rightly mentioned that this right is recognized under the Article 3 of the Convention on the Rights of a Child. And even well before that, the Declaration of the Rights of a Child, the 1959 Declaration, equally recognized this right, that whatever decision is made in respect of a child, the decision maker should consider the best interests of the child. So coming back to your question, in the event a child refused to open up during the investigation and even during the criminal justice process, it is not the duty of the lawyer, to force that child to open up, because the right to remain silent is equally accorded to children in conflict with the law. It is not limited to adults. So in the event a child decides to exercise that right, all what the lawyer can do is to work on the evidence available in the case file, and if need be, to rest his case on that of the prosecution. But then you are not under any obligation to force the child to talk, because of his right to remain silent is a constitutional recognized right that is non-derogable. Thank you.
Let me bring in Mr. Job here. As the head of the Center for Legal Support, I mean, what is your role in this whole process, this juvenile justice system? What role do you play, for example, if a minor is in conflict with the law? How do you support?
Thank you. Center, I think I will just give a background of Center for Legal Support, which is a network of lawyers in the Gambia who want to give
mainly young lawyers. So don't feel constrained. I have seen mainly young lawyers who are quite very active and quite enthusiastic about child justice, and they have, I'm not cutting you short, but they have a special arrangement with National Agency for Legal Aid. As you know, I should just make this clear. Under no circumstances a child should go through legal process in this country without being legally represented. And that does not mean criminal justice. Even where there's a civil issue, there's a civil matter before the court, even if the child is not directly a party. So two parents are going through the court system, and the decision between these two parents will negatively, or one way or the other, will impact the child, then the child must be represented. So you can find three people in court, the mother and the father, for example, or two adults fighting over something. A lawyer can come in and just look after the interest of the child. So Chief Kumba Job's organization is helping us in doing that.
It's good you acknowledge the support they're giving. Yes, Mr. Job.
Indeed. So like he mentioned, Center for Legal Support is a network of young lawyers who want to give back to society. And our area of focus is human rights, justice, democracy, and rule of law, which is things that we do every day as lawyers. Those are things that concern us most. And we provide legal representation to people who cannot afford the services of lawyers. We know, I am a private lawyer, but I can tell you sometimes it's expensive to hire a lawyer of your choice. So knowing our economic status, some of us decided, look, we need to do something. Why do we need to do something? One of the reasons is we only have one legal aid provider that is state managed. That is the National Legal Aid, where Mr. Cisse and Mr. Suso are from. And we understand, or we understood at the time, that human resources is a problem at the institution. They did not have the enough capacity to be able to provide or to respond to all people who need legal aid in the Gambia. So we were concerned about that thing, and we said, okay, we can do something as young lawyers. And what we can do, we can set up an organization where when one needs legal services, particularly when it has to do with human right, a victim of human right or a survivor of human right, or a person is charged before our courts and is not able to have the service of his lawyer, services of lawyer of his own, so we can come in and help the person. For children who are in conflict with the law, usually we intervene. If we are involved at the level, or we get to know at the level of the police, we go to the level to the police station to find out what is happening. If the matter has to go to court and the person does not have representation, then we volunteer to come in and provide that representation for the child. So essentially, we complement the effort of NALA, and we've been working very close with them, as well as the Gambia Bar Association, because we are like equally a branch under the Gambia Bar Association. So we also came in as lawyers. We are members of the Gambia Bar Association, but we also created this organization to complement the effort of the Gambia Bar Association, the NALA, and also the Female Lawyers Association also, who are interested more on female women issues. So we came in here to complement. For us, we do not have an area to focus, whether it's a child or it's a female or it's a male, or it doesn't matter. The person must just need the services of lawyer, and he's not able to get it. One, perhaps NALA is not able to provide that service because of capacity constraint. They can forward the file to us. Please help us to handle this matter, and we do that. Or in the alternative, or in the other way around, the family approach us, and then we get in. Or sometimes we just see it on social media. A child is involved, and we are concerned. So we just will take a proactive role or steps to make inquiry and know about the case, and we see how best we can help.
So do you keep statistics to know how many people you have supported so far?
Yes, we do have the statistic. Unfortunately, I was not thinking perhaps this would be important to provide a statistic, but
it's important so that we can know the impact you have made so far.
Yes. Certainly. I wish I could recall on top of my head, but definitely I don't. But
so how do people access you if somebody want to access National Legal Support? Like you said, you're closely working with the National Agency for Legal Aid, but if someone wants to access you, do you have any office where somebody who wants to reach out to you can do so? Presently,
our office is in Kololi, Senegambia New Road, where you have the Equa petrol stations. Anyone that is interested to reach us, you can come there. Also, we are very active on social media. So you go to social media, you will find us. Presently, we working even to put our website on, because we are new, relatively new. We started in 2018. So we started this year, engage an expert to develop our website. And hopefully in the next couple of days, it could be on.
Let me bring back Cisse before I come to Susu. I mean, you have heard from Job. I mean, he has really acknowledged, the close collaboration that your office and his office have enjoyed over the years since they were established in 2018. How present is the National Agency for Legal Aid? How much do people know about your existence?
It depends who you are talking to and which part of the country you are talking about. Generally speaking, National Legal Aid Agency, some call it NALA, is not that widely known beyond West Coast and the urban area, simply because the institution is it's been in existence for some 10 years now, but it's quite very limited in terms of resources. Ideally, we would have wanted to have office in each region of the country. At the moment, we have only 3 offices. the main office in Kanifing, just off Jimpex Road, yes, and Brikama and Basse.
That's Jimpex when you're going to Gassam.
Yeah, that's Gassam Road. Right. The old Observer building, that's where the headquarters is. And we have weekly sort of like informal drop-in session where people can come in with their problems, and we see them, we give them advice in the cases that we cannot take to court, we cannot represent, and we refer them to people like Mr. Job's organization or some other private lawyers. That is in headquarters. In Brikama, we have a coordinator there in the governor's office complex, and people can come in there, and the social welfare is there. I think Women's Bureau is also there, and the regional administrative officers are there. They are aware of also, so they do refer people to us. In Basse, similar situation happens, but we don't have a presence in Mansa Congo, neither in Farafenye or Kauru or CRR or North Bank. And so that is a serious problem. As a national institution, given the resources, we ought to be present in all the regions, especially for children and women, because these are naturally in our social setup disadvantaged minorities or group. They may not be minority, in fact. They are disadvantaged in many respects because of the way sometimes the culture works. The religion is misinterpreted, and as a result, some people take it upon themselves to treat them as if they are not one of equals before the religion, in the religious context, and also in the legal context. So it is more of a cultural attitude towards them, and therefore they are disadvantaged, so they don't have a voice, women and children, and they can't make decisions. So decisions that affect them generally are taken by people who would look after themselves, generally speaking. We have to be honest. So therefore, to answer your question, NALA is a national institution, should be known countrywide, but the recent survey conducted by UNDP shows that not many people know about NALA. And they may be in need of our service.
Anyway, not so many people know about NALA, and they may need your service. But Asuso, let me bring you in here. Yeah. What exactly does your office need to be everywhere in the country? Because it is important. I mean, we have several children who come to conflict with the law. I mean, they have nowhere to go. What exactly do you need, either from the government or development partners, to ensure that NALA is presence in all the regions across the country?
Thank you, Mr. Cisse. NALA has been established by an Act of Parliament, 2008, called the Legal Aid Act, and the office started operation in 2010. But one of the challenges the office has always been facing since the time of its inception is funding. It has been grossly underfunded, and it has been understaffed. So what NALA needs right now is to have that political will to fund the institution so that its presence can be seen every region of this country. But as we are speaking, it's an agency that has 8 to 9 lawyers. So you don't expect 8 to 9 lawyers to be in all the regions of this country. And we have high courts in Basse, you have high court in Mansa Congo, and you have different children's courts also in Basse, Kanifing, Brikama. So what NALA needs currently is to be funded so that we can be in all the regions, and access to justice will be given to every Gambian, irrespective of which region you are based.
And just to add to that, sorry, I know you may ask.
No, come in. It's important.
The National Development Plan, one of the stated intention of it is that justice will be brought to the doorsteps of every Gambian. So in the wider scheme of things, it is important that be it NALA or anybody else, at the moment NALA is mandated, should make a concerted effort to make sure that this is realized, because you see there is a report by the World Bank and the International Bar Association that survey countries around the world, including developed and so-called underdeveloped countries, and they come to the conclusion that investment in justice sector, especially for the underprivileged, is as important as investment in the health and education, because child 1, 2, 3 ending up wrongly in prison, detention, can have untold impact on that child's health, future, career, and so many other things. But not only that, a parent wrongly convicted through miscarriage of justice could mean that he goes to prison and 10 of his children will go
hungry.
Exactly. Will go without medical care, will go without school fees, will go without care and guidance. So you can see it is not rocket science for everybody to understand the importance of justice system.
And now this is where it comes back to the issue of the best interest of the child.
Yes, exactly. So that is very important. So I thought I should add to that. So
yes, earlier on your colleague, Mr. Suso, talks about the issue of funding. This is a very important agency. This is a national agency. How much is allocated to the agency annually to ensure you are effectively able to implement your programs?
It's not. I'm not in a position at the moment to say that because, as you know, the government bureaucracy, the way it works, is complex. What we need to do and what we do regularly is that at the end, beginning of every financial year, we provide our budget. And this budget, because we're not a ministry as such, although the Act says how we should be funded, but then we have to put together our budget and give it to the state organ that is linked as a what they call parent ministry, that's Ministry of Justice, and then they will have to negotiate this with finance. But what matters is not how much is given and how much is not given. I think what matters is the importance of recognition of the work that NALA is doing.
Yeah, that boils down to the funding.
Exactly.
And if it's recognized the role you are doing, then the issue of funding wouldn't be a problem.
Exactly. And
but it's only through the adequate funding, adequate budgeting, that you can be able to implement all the programs that you have.
Yes.
You might be in your office, you draw very good programs that, if implemented, can have a huge impact on the children of this country. But if the budget is not adequate, then there's a problem, Mr. Sise.
Yes, I agree with you, and that's why we are not able to provide the service that we supposed to, according to the Act.
You can have the intention,
yes,
but ambition will be there.
Yes.
But then,
first of all, we have to have, at least, at any given time, nobody should be handling children's cases if they are not more than 5 years old. In other words, post-qualification as a lawyer, and especially trained in children's matters, children's issues. Those are the people who are best placed to take cases involving children, because it's very complex. It is much more complex to deal with children's cases involving children than to deal with cases involving adults. So overall, it is not only, in fact, NALA, but the state of the Gambia, and any state for that matter, has to have a proper concerted plan and efforts in place to invest in the justice system if we were to have a fairer and more inclusive society. Other than that, it cannot be, because you can have all the fantastic laws in the books. If they are not being used for the benefit of the people, then what is the point?
Let me bring in as Mr. Job here. I mean, despite being the head of the Center for Legal Support, you're also a private lawyer. How will you assess the juvenile justice system in the country, looking at children who come into conflict with the law?
I think if I am to compare it with the conventional system, there is little progress in it. We have institutions, or we have people who are manning those institutions who are very concerned about the welfare of children. And the juvenile justice system, to me, is more effective than the conventional system, to the extent that all the officers involved understand the best interests of the child, the welfare of the child, and to ensure that children are treated within the right environment. That is provided. But however, my concern is always has to do with the prosecuting authority, the defense as well, and the custodian of these children. Because ideally, we should have a place, a detention place, we call it, or a home, where if a child is not granted bail, the child is sent to that safe house or to that place and given the necessary facilities, like Suso mentioned initially. But presently, I am not aware of any designated area purposely for children who need to be detained while the cases are progressing.
What about the one at Joswan?
Yes.
Is that one not? Yes, Suso?
There is one at Joswang, and it is the only center in this country. But unfortunately, it is not fit for purpose, because it should be a correction center where children, if detained, if the court has no option and order for their detention, should acquire this necessary skill sets and even undergo through an education system before they are released. But the last time I visit the Joswang Juvenile Detention Center, they don't have the necessary equipment, for children to undergo certain training whilst they are under detention.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that shows that you have a lot of work at hand as far as the Center for Legal Support and NALA are concerned. But let's just go in. Well, viewers, you reminded you're working in QTV, and we're broadcasting from a studio here on Kairaba Avenue. And today we are having officials from the National Agency for Legal Aid and the Center for Legal Support. We're discussing looking at the protection mechanism according to children in conflict with the law in the Gambia. Let's now go into the local languages because time has gone.
Before I do that, yes. Sorry, I know you're coming to me, but I just need to flag out a couple of things here. When we talked about funding and the resource allocation to NALA, we forgot to mention that much of what we are doing at the moment, we are grateful, of course, apart from the state, to UNICEF and the PBF donors, because this is part of the sponsorship that we get from UNICEF, and last year they've helped us to put in place some sort of familiarization or publicity or training to involve social welfare workers, social workers, and also the police prosecutors and people working with children. So they are quite interested in the well-being of the children of this country. So we will appeal beyond UNICEF and the UN agencies, and we would appeal directly to the Gambian population as a whole. If anybody think they can help, NALA or CLS or Gambia Bar Association or any other institution that is helping to protect the best interests of children within the bigger scheme or overall scheme of a child justice system, they know where to go, and we are at their disposal to work together and to ensure that the children's rights are protected, and children are also made to understand their responsibilities. And this is another part of our overall activities with the UNICEF. So we try to insist to educate people about the children's right, but also we go into the schools. So we're going to do that in a moment, pretty much soon, to go to school, talk to the children, and make them understand that in addition to them having rights under the law, they also have responsibilities. And mainly it can be found in, those responsibilities can be found under Section 23 of the Children's Act. So I thought I should make that clarification.
Jerejef Ahmed Kemosan, madnal in this kalama Allah bi wala sosebi.
Yes, yes.
Wow, because Mohamed abarka bake well baringol melbe QTV jibe kan being a messenger wala officials melbora ka ho to National Agency for Legal Aid bidum be min ka ka wala mu dindingo la ko dindingo me ala ko ika dun luwa ko to ika luwa tinyaro ke nyewo ke ngante kantala nyaade bi wala kacha jang an melba ja wala mo Ahmed Kemo City at lemu legal officer and head of National Agency for Legal Aid and Sirif Kumba Job at Fanebe Jang at lemu head of Center for Legal Support and Umar Suso at lemu legal officer at National Agency for Legal Aid. Mr. Sise, just ngafon da mento angale kamoto. Nya moy minor mo kafo mu minority. Jumalo minority.
Baraka bake la nyin karo kumata nyamo maino tuab kanlam wolam dindiw man din kol kam fu dindiw wala mo ni ngata ka siyo da seta sanji tang anin sayla waran dol ka fo kariman balikuya wolam dindiwti bar luwato na siyo da seta sanji tang anin sayla dindiwlam ka tunga ka dindiwti drong luwa ninga atekama nyoy nyameng wo buka ke komi anin ke ba kama nyoy nyameng wala tinanding dindingul la kuo luwa koto ay hakili tu nyininka andung ay silale nyininka me alonko abe class la sone arengolti puru ka dindingu nyinta ka dada ala sama dindingu fang sama jamano sama mol fanglo andung na dinol mel bebe nyimbankun kanjam biring muslimolu Islam wala karola fo Christian wala karola bela kitabo ya tandele dindingu la kumo ka fonya men kitabo kono an alqur'ano kono anim bible dindingu da talet ni ma da na tinyata bu kana dano ko tanka ni ko badala ka tinya kala fale yo ni dindingu e koke luwa ka jela ko dindingu e ku ka man betea bari nyale bala men bada dala wonta nyinde ko beddo ko cikala ya kunte wala ya lapi wo bu ka dindingu da hakili ma ya laka dindingu da so wala nandi ikafu dinula manya ni luwa anyanta fatala le pour ke banen luwa ka kenyo nyame
suso luwa e munafo dini wa mealo ko ay ko ke mealo ko ani luwa mantanyola.
Okay, abaraka bake Mr. Cisse yo nyinen karo ka komi luwa e min fo dinno ko to mealo ko alen luwa don tanyola wala mo dindon falang ye nyanto sotole luwato comme momone ni tumi kula wo temboto abe danderen tumi rolla ka fo karle nyinke so wo lodulato min yalan ko wolle ka luwal enforce wala mo police solti min yalan ko wala mo mo fololte min yalan ko lendi don nyen mina in contact wo mu ikunna wajibolati pour que dindungu nye nyanto tanka kaje komin tumiro la ba kunna folo ado wo tumiro kiti bun la si aytandi fodi ayakela bang fodi amake wonto ni woketa ni dindung ya tumi kwali luwa dun tanyola miliyalan ko wolle ke mol muta miliya luwatinya e bay nyanto di law ala nyamen wala mu Children's Act yel sartol millande wala mu ni iba nyinin kala komin ko nyin keta nyaadile ay muneke wo tumiro kono ay wululal nanta tarajele ni atare ay loya soto min si lo noye wo fala nanta tarra wo dulato le ya fahamule jannen ko nyimbe fotala kiti bunto so wo process so be kono min kum mayata wala mo ke dindin nyin ye best interest nyin tanka wala mo miye dindin nyin nafa ko nyin kono fo almari si wol tanka e manana adundila ku kono mi yalan ka baki jo farandela comme police station odo ay ta kuma fo mi yalan ko ani atarata manko nyinke but because of kija faro nyin asafon tele yake so wala na luwaye o sarto lande ka fo nindindon ya tume kula ay alifal wonto membe marlin ala wol nanta tarla nyinen kar dulatole wonto ay loya tarje wonto social welfare woka e tareje adon na loi falanto nindindon len loi dun tanyola Children's Act mi alan ko wala dindon le loi mara ay min encourage wala mo pro dindon nye ko asi ke ay tariya ya fahamle ni atara police o nyem faw asi decision o nyem make no luwa o nyanto di police wala le pro aya decide fo di nyem ko ni a jareta la futa kiti bunto bang fo amanjare ke futa kiti bunto so luwa o sembo di police wala le so e kaje fala ni atara police wol ko luwa ni use ko provisional use bake dindu la kiti yo dol bije nanata criminal law e karola wol manana futala kiti bundo komin nedi non tumi kwa sora sola sunya neighboring compound to asinyo kordado
ne wasiata
wasiata
nyomin kol
ado eka jele wo kiti si falo unfortunately akita kiti bundo dindu nye karambung sina kolea karamundo tasina kolea kado ninkiti moyo kuma ne fesi adangu kado nima dangu wo moa luwati nya dolete so ni kiti bungu nyimbe sire dindu tita no karambondo so wala na provisional ay police wol fenke pour isia discretional use comme nyen luwati nya sifalo dindu e saranso sunya asinyo korda gon ni atare asinyo lafta ko nyem banna a manjare pour yoku sifa futande kiti bungo kadon the whole idea wala mo malafi dindunglu expose la criminal justice system o kono mi yalan ko amina dajika jawodi lela so masinen kama
I mean janning suso bina angale kon yefen fay ko hanen nyata dindingo mankuke bari asikeno afani ba e dunta nyokono andi ila wo case asikeno abe dindingo ni affect la jesina ndi molejo
même mo don kon quand même fulam don dendu hekatu mo da talt so loi min dandi sanden constitution auto bankola kitab bumba adin kitabo me loi me yada da pour dindi won la tankaro ko kamala quand même for children's act 2005 ay ni tan de komiko dindin ninga tar ko hannin ta fanga daman dum kitiyo kono wara ni mo man tra nyosa bakata fanga ni mo man tra nyosa kambare hannin tar ke ba fula wolle be nyosa bakan kula bari ning decision men nyanta ko kuntula ha men nyanta ko kunta tata ke jojol tiba tata ke police tiba tata ke minister tiba tata ke governor tiba tata ke teacher tiba bari mo ninga tar ko atale kitiyo kuntula din ke ba fula tema andu nayo kitiyo kuntu din new nyim na sinin babalale woto ay ferola nyanta kala moy tarje mialon ko ay luwalon kay kandi kiti kuntulala o diam kuntulala ko nyine ci dinni nyin nafano ay nyine sa torano isaje ko ning o mari be decision o tala abe ku kuntula ke ba fula tema hande ni wadati je ba dinni bina to mantoro sotlo ko konle asalon ka be o kala nyamen pour dinni nyin kana mantora je sini misal kam fe musoni ake mala futuo danketala o kakele
asiatel say
nin danketala kewta mu kordati tumandati ti jam fam abadi ngi bijam futuo bandal ala be suwa kono nin di ngi bijam manyam findila kat nin di findita abitani wonyanda kala nyinen ka talti ando loale salo noko je mo itel ba fa mol ba fa je mo na la fem akala musona di ngi le findi nyi mol ka dat findila hani wonde loale ko dindi manyam findila e labanda wara ta aman ladu la soto sina bita karam moto nyaadil na elam beddo kono sina na nyol be nyoji la karam moto nyaadil kuna ngamu atal yal funtin dal la suwo kono al belade beddo la ko wala be karnyol la suwo la fan kono so wo beddi niw nying ala wakilo anala to wal comme confidence abana ka sindilal so oto di niw la manke di niw la nafati sinin so kamala hanin tar ke ba fula man nyonwa fahamno bari wolla nyo faham bal yaw man nyande ndiw torala so wala mo misal wati kada may tande ani lafta ka kuma kilil landi je wala mo so e même fo akumata back sakola ko police solo pour itelo katu continuer la dron ke karandi ke train especially prosecutors kaje ko dindi wala du nyolo ani luala ani tilla dabulo je amanya mela nim femme yalon ka nyanta tobuto la lokun kilon kono amanya tambel lokun kilon la nafsara kar kilon kar fula kar saba abe niw ni nakasindi la
wa xamna ne na fi indi job ci lu gatta rek xamna ne jamala ci olof tout rek yow yani ka di jité botay bi ngewone Center for Legal Support I mean yan liggéey ngeen dé def pour mëna gis na ngeen mëna jappalé ay xalé yo xamné dugane ci loxol luwaay
jërëjëf Aliou ñun Center for Legal Support luñ dee gën a def mooy ne jàppale nit ñu xam ne den am tolof si yëfi case o si yëfi loi nga war a yóbbu dem court o nga def commit offense ñu war a laa yóbbu court amuloo lawyer because sa family bi mënut a afford xaalis dafa seer exactly fay lawyer nga dem legal aid maybe amoon capacity bi seen lawyers yi dañ busy ñoom dañ busy mënuñ provide representation so mun ngaa daw si ñun mun nañ laa jàppale ñu defense la si case bi o sudut criminal case tamit mu nekk comme ça human right case because léegi fu mu nekk ni ñu bari du xam ne seen yelleef yi den ko yaaxa ma in a human right violation si yu dee am nga bëgg a dem court amuloo lawyer mun ngaa ñëw si ñun mun neen laa jàppale si loolu so essentially ñun loolu mooy sun liggéey mooy ne jàppale nit yi ñu xam ne den am conflict den am issues with the law bëgg a lawyer ku leen mun a jàppale maybe amuloo xaalis o maybe nga dem naala because naala moo fi nekk di provide legal aid so wax ne ñoom si seen boppam ne ñoom seen doole bi ak mun léegi because of seen limited resources duñ mun a jàppale yëpp dañ dee am cases yu bari yoo xam ne si provinces bi leen dee jógee sax dañ dee ñëw ba fii bugg a ñu jàppal leen particularly ñu dee dem district tribunal because district tribunal bi dafa important torop because ñooñu tamit dañ dee def criminal cases maybe jëkkër ak jabar xuloo waa ñaari dëkkandoor xuloo ñu di yóbbu leen district tribunal léegi dañ dee am complaint ñu xam ne dañ bugg a représenter sur district tribunal but xam nga suñ luwaay Gambia bi léegi lawyer du dee mun a dem si district tribunal bi so ok loolu tamit daf dee mun a nekk jafe-jafe torop but ñun suñ taxawaay mooy jàppale ku xam ne yaa ngi am problème si luwa nga bëgg a ñu jàppale la mun ngaa ñëw mun neen laa jàppale
fan ngeen nekk bu dee am na ko xam ne mu ngi seetaan am na problème bëgg na ñëw seen office fan ngeen nekk
waaw ñun suñ office bi mu ngi Kololi sooy dem Manjai Park ngay dem Kololi opposite Gaddafi Mosque bi da nga gis benn petrol station bu nekk Ecowa si kaw leen nekk so anytime ku am problème nga bëgg a ñëw gis ñu mun ngaa ñëw foofu dañuy gis naka leen la jàppale daal.
Let me just bring in Sister here again. Yamoy job ye men fo ikadoko menke. Atol fane munem ala lo ñaati. Alka mun demar se faale di mol.
Ha ntel ka demaro men dia CFA siatale ba na dinul la karola wala mu ibe itata kule ke ba men lu ama mbembang kebal be kule ke kan men yalon ko o be kebal daman le tema bara ninga tara ko dindiwul la sama wala dindiwul la nafa wala be dundila ko nyen kondron ni na tantaliya fonge makoy bade bankola luwa ko dindiw manyen na tambila nin kiti ko kunna criminal and civil fo asilo ya soto so ntalla niw dindi sulata ntolla wadan dindiw la alfa sulata loyala na tantaliya mbe fero kala kama ko nintel mama ko no nka kidulal to men kamanta ko Center for Legal Support Mr. Jobla Molia Gambia Bar Association Gambia Law Society adi lawyer killing bijame alon ko wol yaitan den talla ko nale nyin sifa so to wato watndi al sin kala mutande natal ma keno ninga tara ko mbulobe yom faren mbal ma ko la so ntalla do ko molati bar mandande ndingul damal funa lanka kebal ma ko le sa ko kebal me alon ko ni tata luwaye mutakata kasola dindingul be torala wala ko ka kumaya mun kama
I understand we're running out of time but just quickly under a minute munem alla kolya ko
ndalla kolya ko momento wala mu komi na sembo do ata bak man sakunda me yellondi wol fangal ba kalam taring ni be kachakan bari ni sembo dinna bari fangal ya fole komi national development plan ye mendo ka ya hammo me yitandi banko la ko ilafta banko mol besi fan ila nyaato ta soto yirwa soto wol kono la kaje ko momo ni atade ko yesi ko soto waranto kumbo da soto luwa la karola luwa sina e futa fela bundala ke makoy so ni mo dunda nyola bang ini mansa kundala department dol dunda nyola ba yaje ko ila hako ilafta ina karla kan ye nyanto soto kata luwato ke fam fasa ni atade ko ilafta wakila bari ta fanga mal luwa long ande man ko do soto ka luwa loya ta kejo wote nyantina la kana legal aid yakka ya fo ko nyine mun na kole akoti mfanga ye na dimbali ye ali makoy but ten sai legal aid bu kanyim mol be makoy no katuko loi dulale bi je me alon ko anyanta bulandila anyanta timmandila wo man timmande hani sai wala mu tombi loi bunda tansaba anin tansaba ning tombi killing konto anin fula woko man sekunda nyanta fero kala kaluwa da kaitande ko banko kan minimum wage wala molla kamen soto no karo kare police baluno momola baluo ela soto da sata wala doron ne kugu soto akada criminal code case tibang akada civil case tibang ite nyanto le mo puriye lawyer legal aid
Baraka Bake Ahmed Kemo Sise, he is the legal officer and head of the National Agency for Legal Aid. Well, viewers, with that we bring an end to this program. Of course, we had officials of the National Agency for Legal Aid and also the Center for Legal Support who are here, I mean, to discuss about the protection mechanism according to children in conflict with the law in the Gambia. Like I said, I mean, we had Ahmed Kemo Sise, who's a legal officer and head of NALA, Umar Suso, legal officer, and Sirif Kumba Job, who is the head of the Center for Legal Support. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program. And yes, you. Yeah,
Mr. Sise.
No, we just like to thank UNICEF Gambia.
Yes, like you said, I mean, yes, thanking UNICEF for their support. I mean, I will also use this opportunity to appeal to the government, of course, to the Ministry of Justice and all donor partners in the country to really consider supporting the National Agency for Legal Aid. I mean, they need the adequate resources to be able to do their work. On behalf of the production team, we thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.